some information going forward, that's where, when you go back, or if you have access to the internet, you should be able to get all the material that you can download, right? But that doesn't mean that you're not going to get copies. So we brought copies of some of the slides. Later we're going to see that this is more hands-on, it's more about the Nigerian economy, but because we're doing a bit of theory and practice, so I've taken the liberty of doing a bit of sort of background on each of the issues, so that these will be part of the slides, and then we are going to have some copies of case studies or exercises that we're going to use, which I'm going to prepare, print at the hotel here, and then you're going to get copies. But everything, in case you're based here, but usually it happens that if we're doing a course in London, it does happen that a lot of people, they have excess luggage. They don't carry everything, but sometimes you get a lot of background material. Then you can download it, right? So that's information for the future. I think it's always going to be there, but I don't know exactly the logistics, but certainly for this week, you're going to get all the material. I don't know when they're going to load it, but gradually they might decide to load it, because they're going to wait for me to finalize it, because there could be some changes, some additions, some new things that you want to discuss, but I will be changing, I will be adapting as we go along. So they might give you the final version there. The one that I'm going to circulate will not take into account what we've been discussing, you know, so that's will be the final version. Another bit is part of the administration, so I'm not good at that, but I'm trying to. You're going to get, it's called sort of trying to ascertain your understanding at the beginning of the program, and then at the end of the program on Friday, I'm going to give you another one, which says, here it says start of the course, when you're going to get the copy, and then the other one will be similar, but it's going to say end of the course. So it's a question of being honest with yourself, but being honest with us. How there are going to be a number of objectives, which I'm going to cover later, but I'm circulating it now, so that at some point, you already, before we start our first session later today, you already say, where are you? So as an illustration, understanding of macroeconomic situation. I'm just saying here, are you, it's going to be 1 to 10. So are you very good, or are you mid, or your understanding is near 0? So you would say that. Then hopefully we're going to, at the end of the course, we're going to have the same assessment. Again, you will be the one deciding what has happened now. Have I gone backward, have I moved forward, or have I not moved enough? So something like that. So it's a bit good for you also, but it's also good for us to see how we can improve in the future. Okay? But at least to meet your expectation, because at the end of the day, it's not about me here coming and doing all the bits and pieces. It's about you trying to get the maximum from that particular program. Okay? So let me take the liberty of circulating that, and I hope you understand what I mean. So why this 1 week may not be useful to you. So again, be honest, because then we can raise the dialogue. I'm going to evaluate it. If, for example, everybody didn't understand the macroeconomic situation, then we'll go and deal with, we just move it on. Moving on, there's no problem. So it's more relative based, right? You can call me just Dave. The other one is just forget it. And you can see, I mean, this is a partnership between NABRO, your own organization, and Crown Agents. I've been with Crown Agent for quite some time, and prior to that, I was working with another Commonwealth Institute called the Commonwealth Secretariat. You may or may not have heard of them. They are based, obviously Nigeria is a Commonwealth member country. And so I used to work for them and then joined Crown Agent. Until about a few months ago, I'm still working for Crown Agent, but more or less in I wanted more quality time, let's put it this way, but I'm still working for them, so it doesn't matter. So I know what Crown Agent does, etc. And we have a very good relationship between Crown Agent, Commonwealth Secretariat, and the Nigerian government and other organizations. Me personally, I've had the opportunity to be working a lot with different organizations in Nigeria. I used to manage until 2013 a program with the Debt Management Office, which you must know, especially around the time when you might have heard Nigeria was saddled with about $34 billion of debt. So you remember that in the pre-2005 period, where then the whole international community were asked to come and see what can be done about Nigeria. So we were involved with all that, and obviously the debt deal that Nigeria was able to secure through the help of the UK government. It was a program supported by the UK government, DFID, and that's how I was able to be coming very regularly and even coming to Parliament, because a lot of the discussions was not necessarily about the technical side, which is always you want to build capacity on the technical side, but it's also about the policy side. What is the role of Parliament when it comes to borrowing? What is the role of Parliament when it comes to the budget? Because we're going to see very clearly, and you know it already, the relationship between the budget and borrowing. Because most of the time you're going to see government needs more money than they can afford, and the only way they can finance that deficit is by borrowing. And so it's not like a free lunch. There's always a cost involved. So I've had the opportunity, like I'm saying, to come and discuss with a number of your committees. You have quite a few committees. I also had the privilege, in fact, I don't know which program it was. That was some time ago. Those of you who have been around would probably remember, but it was more to do with the members of those different committees, budget, finance, etc. About 35 of them, plus officials, actually came to London, and we did a ERGP.
How was the project coordinated?
All right, so you must know that very well. So that was the time when I sort of got involved from a capacity building point of view. But we used to go there and listen to the chair of the committee to understand whether the program was actually doing well or not, or what else could be done, etc., etc. And the program itself was done. It was 14 years. So sometimes, if a donor gives you money for 14 years, the big question is, why do you need money for 14 years? So we always wanted to go back and say, well, what new things can be done? The good news about Nigeria was that what was started with the debt deal, then later it was about changing the profile of the debt management office, making it, not turning it from a recipient of technical assistance to a provider of technical assistance. And when I left it, I haven't been to Nigeria over the last 2 years. I've been busy somewhere else. But when I left it, 2 reports were actually produced, one by the government and one by the UK government, and it was presented. And it all showed that the DMO had the capacity at that time to provide technical assistance to other countries. I remember when I was there, I could see that other countries were coming to learn from Nigeria. So I hope that this nice story is continuing. And as you know, 36 states, it's not only about Nigeria federal, but it's also about what's happening in the states. And because of the federal nature of the country, when we're going to talk, and you yourself, when you're going to do your analysis, you can't ignore what is happening at the state level. Because sustainability is not about what is happening at the center, but also whether those states are actually adhering to some rules. One of them is the fiscal responsibility legislation. And if you remember, those of you again who was in government at the time, when at the time it was ex-Minister Ngozi, we were working with her, so brought a number of parliamentarians to Argentina, to Brazil, to go and learn what is the fiscal responsibility about. That was my program, the DFID program, UK government program. We funded them. They went to India also to find out, because again, it was out of station. So they learned, came back, and then the fiscal responsibility legislation of Nigeria was discussed in one of your big hotels. I think it was probably Sheraton or or Hilton, one of them, big meetings, and then obviously the text was drafted. It was close to election then, but the legislation was passed, but then I think it was not extended to the states. Then later, my program was still there, then we started developing a template for how the state could use the fiscal responsibility. Does it all make sense what I'm talking about?
Yes.
I'm just trying to give you a bit of context because it's not about mechanical blah blah blah. We're going to talk about the blah 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 a little bit later. But it's also about context because it's a conversation I hope we're going to engage and it's going to be fruitful. Right? So that's why I'm giving you the context. But the truth of the matter is that I've not been here for 2 years. So I know, I follow, as always, if you work for 10, 12 years with a country, you always open, download. I know, for example, when the sovereign wealth fund discussions was taking place, I know when, at that time, Minister Mansour, he decided not to go to the market because the financial crisis was coming. I'm going to talk a little bit about the financial crisis later. And to tell you that, yes, your job is, NABRO's job is about evaluating whatever document, whatever, or providing some critical or independent sort of, I hope that is true, independent, right? Independent critical analysis of what you get. But also bearing in mind that we're not you're not in isolation. Like in 1998, when, for example, there was unfortunately some disconnect between Nigeria and the rest of the world. And the IMF wasn't talking to you, all this type of thing. That is history. But nowadays, as you know, we're all part of the global. We're a social animal, global animal. So what is happening in the UK, you might have heard about the Brexit, so this is a popular thing. How is it going to affect, it's not necessarily their policy affecting you directly, but indirectly because it's about export, about flows, about capital, current account, all these type of things, how does it affect? So this is why I was just trying to give you a bit of context about not me, but also the work that we are doing. But on the other hand, just final one of that is, you definitely know more about Nigeria than I do. So let's have this discussion, and let's have how see we can make that program. And if you know, Mr. Nasir has kindly agreed with Crown Agent here and Crown Agent London to have a series of programs. So this is not the only one that you're planning to do. Obviously, after the end of week, 1 week is ours now, we are tired of them, we don't want to come back. So that's your decision. But I'm hoping that we're going to have some discussions. And so in the plan, there is some subsequent program. We're going to move from macro to sectoral, which I hope is going to be more hands-on, because then the theory we will hopefully finish all the theoretical bits. We can then concentrate on exactly what we want to do. We can even sit down together and try to see whether, if you're supposed to analyze, let's say, an industrial policy, how are we going to do it? Or what are the issues that we will be looking at? If you're going to talk about PPP or infrastructure, what are the issues that we need to be looking at? Despite the fact that they are the expert on the ground, because they are going to send you the document. But you, as an independent, as the one that's going to advise or writing on behalf of parliamentarians, because your board is made up of the members of parliament, right? So you're advising them. So what should I tell them about warning or about issues that they need to? When I was advising, or when I'm recruited to sit with a government, I would normally give them my views, but I would not impose my views. There's a big difference between telling them the truth, but on the other hand, the decision making is up to them. So I suspect you are in the same boat. You can say to the extent that what you want to say, but not saying is also a sin. If you don't say it because you're afraid, or you say, oh no, whatever I'm going to say, it's not going to go through. But that's not your job. Your job is to highlight based on facts, based on your interpretation of the data. We're going to come to that a little bit. So enough about the context, and we will come to introducing all of us in a minute. So let me do a couple of slides, and then we will do that bit, because it's very important for each of us to understand. You know it one another, but not only about knowing your name, because now you've already put that on your main card in front of you, which I already know. It's also more about your expectations. So we're going to spend a little bit of time on your expectations. I was expecting to get those charts, which we will hopefully get later. And usually the idea is that you should be sharing your expectations, like 2 or 3. Why are you here? What do you want to learn? I want to learn about this, I want to learn about that. Or I want to discuss, not learn, but I want to discuss more issues about it. And then if the hotel allows us, I have those, you know those, we just put that there, but at least we'll do that later because I don't have the paper with me. Okay, so that's what we're going to do. And then we're going to cover a little bit about what the program is. We'll come to that in a minute because I heard what Mr. Nasir said. Course content is a working document, and rightly so. So it's more about giving us a sort of a framework through which we're going to work. But then the practicality in terms of what we do, I leave it to you, right? So I will do whatever you want, okay? But we'll try to make it as fruitful as possible. So that's what then we're going to talk a bit about the timings. I don't have any comment about catering refreshment. It's there. About fire evacuation, and I'm assuming you know it because you're staying in the hotel. But I'm going to focus more on the approach, the program aims, objective, the timetable, the coverage, etc., and give you the opportunity to discuss that a little bit. And like I said, I'm going to talk a little bit about these expectations, right? At least to know each other, but also to find out whether we are going to satisfy your needs, especially. Are we okay with that? And then, once we years ago, so I don't know how many years now, so let's say 180 years before, so it's been there for a while. Obviously, and there were different organizations. They used to be like colonies, doing a lot of work, but some very good work in terms of procurement, in terms of banking, keeping money. I suspect probably even in the old days there was some money from Nigeria in our bank in London, maybe, I don't know. But these are the type of work. Paying for pensions. I was quite surprised recently. I got a call, it happened to be in French, so it came at a reception, because nobody would not send it to me, right? And embracing good practice. I don't like using best practice. A lot of people say best practice. There's no such thing as best practice. It's relative. So good practice, something good, you take it, you use it. No, if it's a bad practice, obviously you try to get it out of your system. So we want, so in that particular country, they have taken some private sector means about how to improve procurement of drugs from outside, how to store it, modern way, storage, all the barcode, everything, to have very good stock. So that you don't get surprised, oh, we don't have maternal kit. 24 hours before it's run out. Is that a good thing? The hospital needs the maternal kit tomorrow, and now you're telling me that I don't have it. So when are you going to procure it? And as you know, government procurement. This is the most complex machinery sometimes. It takes, and rightly so, you have to go through the process. It's not because I know you, say, well, can you bring me something like you? When you are missing something, you can go to the corner shop. You can go and buy it, if it's available. But in the government, you will have to send a notice, you have to put a procurement, you have to get at least 6 or 3, minimum 3, but you have to tender it. Once the tender has gone through, and you can imagine how many people are getting involved. So by the time all that process goes, oh my God, probably so many people now, the maternity ward is probably not operating because lack of equipment of this. So these are the type of things. And then distribution. And so we were trying to see how the board of the pharmacy, the new pharmacy in Korea, was going to work effectively. So these are the type of work that helped us. Humanitarian is very much well known. I mean, sometimes if you do see them, you will find that there's a tsunami. We work with the UK government. The rapid response. So immediately we have to mobilize people to bring to drop those packs of essentials. It could be medical, it could be food supplies, etc., etc. So the tsunami is a good example. Or what is happening in countries where there are conflict. So we work a lot in conflict countries. Governance, I was mentioning improving governance. And this is a good example, I would say, about how to improve the governance. Governance is not only about corruption, it's about good practice, about ensuring that you have procedures in place. And I'm going to argue that the parliament is a core agent in governance. Yes or no? Because they have a clear role in ensuring that they are able to oversee the government, the executive, whatever is happening. Am I right in that? Yeah. And so how do you actually improve governance? By changing the law, but also by improving the committee's role and asking the right questions. And we are going to discuss that a little bit later. Many often is that you may find that the new group of parliamentarians come to government because the change of power, or people have moved, retired, whatever. So you may have out of 400 to 500, you may have 250 or 300 newcomers in government, but they are dentists. Their background is, because parliament is democratic organization. Anybody can stand. You agree with that? At least on paper, anybody. Obviously in practice, you need to be shown that people know you have that. But I'm not getting into that. But technically, anybody is eligible to stand. Obviously, if you are lucky, you do your campaign, etc. So suddenly you find yourself representing your constituency, yes, right? Your state or whatever in parliament. And now you're going to be given a lot of those responsibility. You are not a yes man or a yes woman, are you? Technically, you're not. It's not because what the president tells you or whatever the head tells you. You have to evaluate based on your own merits. So that's where the capacity building of parliamentarians is important. So that's governance here. So governance here, governance in terms of what is happening in the Ministry of Finance, governance in terms of what is happening in your parastatals, about good practice, basically, right? To ensure that the money and the big word that is used, certainly from UK, but I think everybody now uses it, is value for money. Have you heard that word? Yes. Value for money. It's everything about, is the money well spent? You know? So it's not only about cost, it's also about how effectively or efficiently are you giving the service. Are people satisfied when they go to the hospital? Are people satisfied when they're going to the post office? Are people satisfied when they're going to any public service, right? This type of, or the police, etc., etc. So economic growth, obviously, we're going to talk a little bit about that because it's all about the job that I do. I mean, like I said, I work in the debt management, etc. You're going to see at the end of the program, I'm going to leave with you certain things about. It's not only about 5 days here, staying in this residential place and going out, but also trying to help you identify your own action plan. So hopefully you will be able to participate with me.
It's a constitutional requirement for a minimum, at least, qualification before you come.
Of course, this is what I was saying. Technically, anybody, that cannot be anybody who's, obviously the condition about your minimum age, the requirement, etc. But the whole rule of law, the whole democratic process is that if you comply with the requirement, anybody is eligible. That's what I was talking about. I was trying to simplify it. So nobody can say that I'm not eligible. You can make yourself eligible if you don't meet the criteria. But technically anybody, this is what I was trying to say. But the reality is that the role of politics is wide-ranging. Suddenly, after having won your seat, you find when the dossiers start coming, and just imagine the work that you do. How many types of documents normally come to Parliament? Just imagine that. So obviously we know you're all coming from NABRO, but it's maybe about your experience, what your real sort of actual job responsibility, and your experience in this area about NABRO, etc., and then your personal objective. So we'll do it this way, like that.
My name is Morayo. As a staff of NABRO, NABRO is expected to analyze the budget, the MTF, and other documents. And my experience with NABO has been involvement in the analysis of budget, the MTF document, etc. My personal objective coming for this course is to learn on macroeconomic factors like the GDP, the inflation rate and the unemployment rate, how they, following their trends, how they affect the economy of the country. And as a NABO staff, I want to be able to analyze them per time, following their trend, analyze them and be able to offer my advice to the legislature. Thank you.
She is also the acting head of research. She has accepted.
My name is Abubakar Chekri.
I think let's not make it to 4. So let's.
My name is Abubakar Chekri. She has said almost the same thing what I wanted to say. In addition to what she said, I'm in the budget analysis department, so I've been involved in analyzing the budget in the past years, and I wish at the end of this course to broaden my knowledge on the macroeconomic indices, how to assist the legislature in interpreting the macroeconomic indices in a much simpler way to assist the legislature. Thank you.
My name is Amos Sunday. I've been involved in budget analysis, and my objective here, or my expectations.
Let me interrupt for 1 minute. So you have research department, and then you have
Budget.
project.
Budget.
Project. What is it called?
Budget.
Budget.
Oh, budget. So you're under this project tracking of project is under budget.
Yeah, other budget.
Okay. Sorry.
So my expectations is to increase my understanding the macroeconomic environment, and again to broaden my skill in giving adequate information on that will help my legislatures in whatever they are doing, and the ability to able to at least get a skill that will make me to stand at any time to discuss Nigeria economy.
Thank you.
Good morning all. I think my personal objective on this particular course is to
You
understand
are from which department?
budget analysis.
Budget analysis.
Yes, I just got posted not from budget analysis is to understand the Nigerian macroeconomic environment and to be able to relate it with our day-to-day activities. And once you hear the MTF, the budget, the budget thing, you see it like so big, it's something else you don't know, yes, but we want to understand it and be able to put our own personal contribution to it. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Good morning, my name is Umar Baba. I'm from the Budget Analysis Department. I hope that this course adds a lot to my understanding of the macroeconomic environment in Nigeria. Then just as you've said, there is no best practice but to understand good and better ways of analyzing data and making it more relevant to the end users, Nigerians, and looking at different ways of analyzing data and making meaningful contributions out of it. Basically, I think that's one of my most.
My name is Abdulkadir Aisha. My work is I am in budget office NABRO. We don't have department yet. And my expectation is to understand microeconomic and the environment to enable me to enhance my performance in my function, also to be shared experience with others, and to make sure that I use it for daily activities that will benefit to the NABRO office.
My name is Caleb Amfulani. I've been involved in some budget activities before now, before being posted to NABRO, but though it has to be with just budget defense at the committee level. But now I want to know better how the process of budget is, how it is being implemented, and then its impact on the end users or the receiving end, and then how to make policy recommendation to the legislators on how to go about their oversight.
My name is Samin Ogawa. I've been involved in budget work, especially in the area of MTF analysis, budget analysis, mapping, and my personal objective attending this course is to broaden my knowledge on macroeconomics indices, especially in the area of those macro indices that affect our economy, so that it will help in my job.
My name is Mohamed Kaide Makonjola. Actually, I'm in the admin department of NABRO. I came actually from a construction background. My past experiences, I'm into price shopping, preparing bill of quantities, but when I got to National Assembly, I was deeply involved in budgeting for power committee. I was into petroleum upstreams, budget activities. But right now, I actually want to know more about macroeconomic environment as the aggregate economy of the whole sector. Thank you.
My name is Babu Atum from the budget department. Well, recently we considered the budget analysis. We analyzed the mid-year budget of the 2016. Yeah, but my main aim of this course, I want to have in-depth understanding of the macroeconomic framework, the sectorial analysis, so that at least I will develop my skills to contribute to the.
My name is Aminu Abdullahi. I'm a statistician. I'm involved in collection of data from relevant agencies of the government. Formulate the data, present it, analyze it, and also involved in tracking the performance of the budget, media performance, annual performance of the budget. So my expectation here at the end of this training is to broaden my scope and knowledge on how to accommodate especially the macroeconomic indicators in such analysis that will help the budget and data analysis. Thank you.
I think I will come in last.
Just very quickly on the data. So your collection of data was trying to get information. So how good is the process of getting the information?
Well, a very tedious job in the sense that the data generating agencies rely on few agencies, and once we are not getting that timely data from the agencies, is affecting the generality of the work. In our own case in NABRO, we collect data from the National Bureau of Statistics, the Debt Management Office, the Office of the Accountant General of the Federation, the Budget Office of the Federation. So all these institutions generate or work on their own kind of data, of which we collect all of them and see those that are relevant in our own work, present it, analyze it, and make it in a simpler way for the legislature to work.
My name is Abigail Esen, a temporary staff with NABRO. I participate in budget analysis, particularly the assignment of the budget mapping. My expectation here is to have a broader knowledge of the microeconomic indicators, as before now I have a very minimal knowledge on that, which I believe will in turn help to improve my microeconomic analysis skills.
Thank you.
Abdul Hakim Nasir, an ad hoc staff at NABRO, and my work is to assist the permanent staff in budget analysis process, and what I aim to achieve here at the end of the training is a knowledge broadening, so as to help and assist the permanent staff and contribute my own quota towards the achievement of NABRO goals and objectives. And my hobby is swimming and polo as well.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
My name is Abubakar Mahmoud. I'm from Budget Analysis Department. Yes, the purpose of this course is to broaden my knowledge about the macroeconomic analysis. And my expectation is that at the end of the course I'll be able to understand the macroeconomic analysis, particularly the Nigerian inflation rate, the employment, the unemployment, the GDP, and the fiscal analysis.
Thank you.
My name is Audu Mohammed. I'm a policy analyst with NABRO, but also more involved in all the budget aspect over the years with NABRO. Though maybe more in a smaller scale as it is with the organization, but as this way, the expectation with this training is to have an in-depth knowledge of the macroeconomic environment of the nation, which more like assist in every other aspect of the budget, being a document that is social, it's economic, as in a way also. So my expectation in this training is to improve my capacity in the workplace in relation to the macroeconomic aspect of the budget, so that I can add up value to the budget, the organization, and the National Assembly.
Thank you very much.
My name is Mohammed Nasur Saidu, and I am the administrative head, that's the designation now. And I am the head of NABRO, charged with the responsibility of taking NABRO back to its original plan. My experience relevant to the course spans across 4 different areas. At one time or the other, I happened to find myself as an analyst with the Planning and Legislative Budget Department. And I was also the clerk for the Legislative Budget and Research Committee. That's the committee that was sidled with the setting up of NABRO
initially from 2008 to 2010. And I happened to partake in the operating model design for the entire organization also. So after that, I moved to the Committee on Appropriations also, where I was the budget specialist for the committee, and then moved to become the clerk of the committee, from where I was moved to the maritime sector for 2-3 years before I was finally reposted back to the finance committee, where I, kind of clerked the committee on finance of the house for 3 years. My posting to NABRO was in March, 2016, and the idea was for us to go back to that original design of NABRO. And my personal objective as it relates to this training program is for me to be able to look at the understanding the Nigerian macroeconomic environment. When we're designing the program, we realize that it's like a prerequisite for any other thing, kind of NABRO will move on. Because without an understanding of the macroeconomic environment, you can't even, seem to start. And that all the building blocks, all NABRO, kind of is programming to achieve in this year and in subsequent years will be dependent, will be a function of our own understanding of our own macroeconomic environment first, and then moving forward to the sectoral analysis which you referred to, and the depth analysis issues, and then budget analysis and the budget implementation reviews also, culminating with that. So my own personal objective is to be able to, at the end of this program, even if not see holistically from the top, the whole pie, you understand, let me see that chunk of the pie before we get to the sectoral analysis, so that by the time we go through all the models, I'll be able to see a holistic, kind of picture. And we'll be able to achieve that basic objective, which we hope to serve as a springboard for a project that NABRO is, kind of mulling about now, that we hope will revolutionize the way planning is seen in their country, and the way projects are allocated and are identified and put in the budget process. So this is just, kind of a block in a bigger, kind of objective. It's like a goal, it's like an objective that we hope by the time we achieve all the 5 key issues, we'll be able to get to that, final step. Because if you look at our country the way it is now, I don't know if some of you have watched channels yesterday night. There was a discussion, and actually data from NABRO was referred to. We did a mapping of capital projects for 2016, which we publicized, which is on our website also, and it has drawn a lot of, kind of inputs. And the main idea of generating that mapping is to encourage citizen monitoring and evaluation. What is the criteria for citing a road project from A to B and not D to E? You see, projects are put into the budget now from both the executive side and the legislature side without any scientific basis, just looking at political, kind of non-objective basis. There's no objective criteria for deciding on this, and we felt that by having our staff, training them through these 5 key areas we identified, they will be able to contribute when we come to conduct the final survey that, kind of NABRO is looking up to, that will serve as a baseline information that even the legislature and the executive will rely on. And the legislature also rely on questioning, you understand, the inclusion of certain projects. But as I said, understanding of the entire macroeconomic environment is key. Because without an understanding, you may see a project as just a project, but it may have a global, kind of impact on the entire economy, not just a zone, a state, or maybe a local government where it's cited. Thank you very much.